Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love.
Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. And wow, you know, you got a returning guest. Been on, I think, maybe 2, 3 times already over the past couple of years. And this man is tremendous. And the things that he is doing, especially when it comes to the senior serving community, there's no one better, you know. And a lot of things I think that we need to talk about that many of us are not aware of, and how we can best help serve our seniors, make life more comfortable for them, and also help his organizations out. Because we don't get a chance to know this wonderful, wonderful guest that I have on the show. Name is Paul Downey, and he's out of San Diego, the CEO and president of Serving Seniors. And just like I said, he's a trailblazer doing wonderful, wonderful things. And we're going to talk about a lot of the things that he is doing and some of the things that we all might want to chip in and help out with what he's doing. First of all, the title of the show is Ageism and Ageism. And Paul called it the last acceptable ism. And he's going to explain all that to us when we get to it. So the talking points today, what we're going to talk about is, first of all, we're going to get a chance to know this great man, the CEO of Serving Seniors. We're going to discuss what is ageism and how it is one of the most widespread socially accepted form of prejudice. Hey, yes, it is. Discuss the many forms of ageism and a commentary that are made. Learn how ageism affects the health, longevity, financial well-being, and many, many other things. We're also going to discuss the main causes of older adult homelessness, which is growing even more every day. And last but not least, we're going to talk about, we're going to discuss the annual Sunshine Gala event that Paul normally puts on every year. So I tell you what, I'm going to bring Paul on the show right now, and he's going to tell you a little bit about him. Just like I said, I love having this great guest on the show because he always brings a lot of enthusiasm and education, and he just put it out there. So without any further ado, here is Paul Downey. How are you doing, Paul? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, James. Appreciate the very nice introduction.
It's like I mentioned, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. And so many good things. So I just love having you on. So, Paul, can you tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about you that might have hadn't saw you the last couple of times that you were on the show, and tell them what
Sure.
you
So happy to. So I'm, as you noted, President CEO of Serving Seniors. I've been doing this job now for 28 years,
okay.
and Serving Seniors really focuses on extremely low income seniors. So in fact, 86% of the folks that we work with are living on less than $1,200 a month. We see about 10,000 people through our doors every single year. So we're talking about very at risk, and many of them are actually experiencing homelessness. And so we try to provide those wraparound services that allow them to stay housed, which is where they want to be. And where, of course, as a community, we want them to be. So it's become a passion of mine to really be, advocating for them on a consistent basis.
So, hey, Paul, can you tell them about your organization? What made you decide that, hey, I need to do something. We all need to do something to help this situation that's growing, I believe, is growing even more and more every day. You are out there doing great things. So can you tell us a little bit about that? I think we might have lost you for a second, Paul.
Sorry, I'm having a little audio.
Can you hear me now? Hey,
I can hear you just a little bit.
I said, can you tell us a little bit about your organization? Why did you decide, hey, that I need to do something and I need to start this organization? I need to help our seniors out.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Not hearing.
I think we're having technical difficulty. It's hard to hear. I tell you, we're gonna take a station break. I'm gonna try to correct this stuff on my end. We're gonna come back and pick it up. So I tell you what, just stay tuned with a little technical difficulty. We'll be right back with issue life, and we're gonna talk to Paul Downey. I'll see you shortly after the break. Welcome back to James Cooley Show. I hope we were having technical difficulties. Can you hear me now, Paul?
I can hear you just I can hear you enough.
I can hear you enough.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Everything seemed to be okay, but so well. Our question was, we were talking about you started this foundation, this non-profit organization and different things. My question was, when did you understand that, hey, I need to do something? So this is a growing problem out there, and I'm going to get involved in this and try to do all I can to help bring this problem under control to the best of your ability.
Well, it came to me when I was working as an elected official, and I was able to get a chance to volunteer, and it allowed me to really focus on helping. Folks out here get hired senior. Team around us.
Okay, so kind of hard to hear. I don't know what's happening today. So Paul, we talk about ageism. Can you first explain to our listeners, our viewers, what is ageism?
So ageism is really when you're just what's happening. I'm having some audio issues, but I'll try to
I'll try to
go through it and see if I can maybe answer using the microphone. So ageism is really discrimination based on age. And as you mentioned during the introduction, that most people understand that racism and sexism are bad. You shouldn't do it. Now that doesn't mean that they don't, but it means most people understand that. But a lot of folks with ageism, who are well-meaning, who would be horrified if somebody said you're being racist or sexist, are ageist. And so it's making comments or jokes about an older person. They're hard of hearing, they're grumpy. I mean, all you have to do. I mean, a perfect example. If you ever watch The Simpsons, you see Grandpa on The Simpsons is a perfect stereotype making fun of somebody who is older. In a more serious vein, what happens is you see folks who are maybe using a walker or a wheelchair and or a hearing aid. And what happens is people make an assumption that maybe they have senility or they've lost it somehow mentally, when in fact they just have a physical infirmity that may be going on, but their mentally is just fine. And I can really give you, I can give you a firsthand experience of ageism. This was a few months ago. I was at the dentist, and I was having had to get a crown put in, and so I had all the paraphernalia in my mouth. And what was happening? Through the dentist check an X-ray, and so she turned away from it, and the dental assistant, who was maybe in her mid-20s, reached over and patted my arm and said, "Sweetie, you are doing so well." And it was probably good that I had a lot of paraphernalia in my mouth, because it was sort of condescending. I was being treated like I was 7 years old. And what I wanted to say is that it was sort of a microaggression that was simply because
Hey, Paul. Hi, Paul. I think. Hi. We can't quite hear you. I think your sound is going in and out. I just want to make sure we can hear you properly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still getting the not with you right now, but I was when James was on. I'm getting the echo in my ear. So.
Oh, okay.
Everything seems to sound okay right now. I mean, but it's your mic. But right now it seems like it's stable. And I tell you what, we're gonna take a station break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna pick it up, and we're gonna talk a lot more about this, and hopefully we can get these issues worked out. And just when you're live, sometimes it's like that. But we're gonna take a station break. But we'll be back shortly with a lot more calls, and we're gonna talk about ageism. We're gonna talk about all the things. We're gonna talk about this great organization. So if you want to be part of the conversation, whichever platform that you're watching this on, all you have to do is just go to it. Ask any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. Yes, in your life, and I'll see you shortly.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
This great man right here is doing a lot of great things. And before we get off into the second segment, I want to show this video I was looking at and very touched with it. And so I tell you what, let's tune into this video. Here we go.
My name is John Jeremiah Conroy, and 65 years old, and I live here in San Diego. I worked at Sharp Grossmont Hospital in La Mesa in the Environmental Services Department. So I served working there 34 years. I was very active playing the piano there for the administration's extracurricular activities. I was a labor leader for the employees in the union. I was in committees, so I was very active in the job, and I enjoyed it very much. And then I decided to retire early. I became homeless February 16th, 2022, a year ago. The support that I needed the most was the emotional and the mental. It was a shock. I had no idea where I was going. My world was being turned upside down. The challenges was building up your self-esteem, because when I was homeless, I felt like a failure. I really did. I felt like a failure. My self-esteem was low, because even though I was in survivor mode and didn't outwardly appear to be that way, I knew inside myself that I didn't feel very good about having to be homeless. It just is not a very good feeling. So you feel humiliated. Serving seniors is a healing place, physically, emotionally, mentally, to get people on the right track to serve mankind and have hope and charity. It gives people that hope, because serving seniors has charity and love and compassion and understanding, which is why I am a survivor. Like that song, Gloria Gaynor. People need to have hope and a positive message. And that's what keeps us going. You have to create your own family. That's what brought faith and hope. When you create your own family and having friends that care and love you unconditionally, that's what's going to get you through the adversity and be able to be resilient. Homelessness will affect all of you, regardless of your status, regardless of your sex, your gender, your race, your environment, your job. It doesn't matter. It can hit home to all of us. Never think it can't, because life is uncertain.
That was powerful. That was a very powerful video. And we're really excited to have Paul Downey from Serving Seniors on this call, on this show, to discuss it. Paul, can you tell us a little bit more about this gentleman in the video, John's story?
Well, John was somebody who came to us, unexpectedly became homeless. This is a guy who never expected. He worked all of his life, and he ran into some trouble when his landlord died, as you heard in the video, and he suddenly found himself on the street, not knowing who to turn to, how to get help. And so for the first time in his life, in his late 60s, he finds himself on the street. So we stepped in, we got him into our transitional housing, where we have some units in a hotel. And we were able then to get him assistance and transition them into permanent supportive housing. And he comes and volunteers, as you heard in the video. He plays the piano, and we recently had our big Sunshine Gala, and he actually performed for the crowd. He did Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue and brought down the house. And but he's doing great. I mean, he's recovered. He dealt with some of the trauma of being on the street, but now is in a really good place.
And you just mentioned the Sunshine Gala, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later in the show. But the show's we're talking about ageism and discrimination. How does age discrimination against older workers lead directly to senior homelessness?
Well, there's a direct result because older workers, are discriminated against. AARP did a survey that showed, almost half of employers say they would prefer to hire a younger worker. So what happens is somebody maybe in their late 50s or early 60s loses their job for whatever reason, and they go out to try to get hired. And I have talked to literally hundreds of seniors who said, when I sat down across the desk from the hiring manager, and they saw the gray in the beard, the gray in the hair, that I knew I had no chance to get that job. And so what you see is older adults who become unemployed, it tends to be a longer period of time, and they have to struggle to find a new job, and they start going through the life savings. And that's the most common cause that we see of older adult homelessness is economic. So that person who has to dip in, spends the life savings, still doesn't have a job, and now maxes out their credit cards. That's the next thing. Then moves into the car, loses the car, ends up on the street. And so that they're being discriminated against just because of age. I mean, many of us would look at an older worker and say there's wisdom. They've made the mistakes, they've learned from their mistakes, and they've got the wisdom that comes with experience. But a lot of hiring managers will use code words. I mean, you'll see things like, we want somebody who's tech savvy, who implying that if you somehow your technical skills, just because you're an older adult, aren't there. And it's this sort of root cause of discrimination, just simply based on age. And it's something that people don't talk about. And I know we had some audio issues, so I don't know if that any of that came through, but people make determinations by how people look. So if somebody's using a walker, maybe needs to use a hearing aid, people make this assumption that somehow mentally they're not fully there, which is a mistake. I mean, less than 10% of the population actually, older adults, have dementia or some sort of issue. And most people are just fine and are just as sharp and can continue to contribute, but we don't, somehow as a society, we don't value that. And that it somehow really is acceptable to be ageist in our society, and people don't call it out. And that's something that I tell people, just like if somebody made a racist comment, made a sexist comment, if somebody makes an ageist comment, you need to speak up and say, that's not okay. And maybe educate them as to why it's not okay.
What's interesting is that, and tell me what your experience or serving seniors experience is with this, where you have older adults, but do they have families who would take them in? And how do they get to the place where they're experiencing homelessness if they do have families?
If they have a family, that is the first thing on our list, is trying to do family reunification. Find out if there's a child, a grandchild, a brother, sister, somebody out there that we can reconnect them. So that's the very first thing. Unfortunately, for a lot of them, they really don't have that family, or the family members themselves are financially impacted where they can't take on providing support for the older adult. And so they're, for the most part, they're by themselves. They're struggling through this on their own. And we see some of that impact. I've mentioned that the root cause of most of the homelessness that we see is economic. So we mentioned job. We also should mention illness is a common, that either they are sick or a spouse partner is sick, perhaps passes away, and end up on the street because they've spent their money taking care of the illness. And so they come to it without that social safety net. For most of us, it would take a horrific series of events for us to end up on the street, because we've got family, we've got friends, I mean, we have a social network. But for many of these folks, they don't have that. And we're seeing increasing numbers, not only here in San Diego. I mean, basically 3 in 10 folks on the streets here in San Diego are now seniors. But you look at, I was just at a meeting last week in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is approaching 50%. San Francisco is not so far behind that. And we're seeing the data is showing that it's mostly economic. But what happens is, because somebody is on the street for an extended period of time, they start to develop really PTSD type symptoms where they have anxiety and depression, and things that you now have to work with them on that were not present when the homelessness began, but because of the trauma and stress of being on the street, start to exhibit themselves.
Now, as John stated in his video, people think that people who are homeless, older adults who are homeless, they want to live on the streets, or that they do suffer from mental illness or any type of addiction. How does serving seniors address these misconceptions and myths?
It is a myth. I mean, the vast majority of people who are on the street do not want to be there. Now, there are some that definitely are mentally ill. I mean, we've all seen folks who are mentally ill on the street, but they're not in a position where they can make a rational decision because of the mental illness. We see people, who use drugs to self-medicate. But what we find with seniors specifically is that it's that economic cause of what's causing that homelessness. So that's something that we, robustly talk about, is that it is an economic cause. But remembering that folks who do have some of these other issues, it really isn't a choice. I mean, if you are severely mentally ill, you are not in a position to make a choice whether you are sleeping on the street or not. I think it's incumbent more on us as the community to make sure we've got resources that can address that. So if you're severely mentally ill, we need to have resources to help you get off the street and get the assistance, whether it's medication, whether it's therapy, whatever it is, to help deal with that. And the same with addiction. But in my experience, I've been serving seniors for 28 years, but I've been working with homelessness for most of my career, in about 40 years now. And I mean, there's just a small percentage of folks that say, this is a great lifestyle. And if you've seen anybody you've seen sleeping on the sidewalk, even in a place like San Diego, which has decent weather, it's no fun. I mean, I've been out on the streets at 3 and 4 in the morning, talking with folks, and nobody is there by choice.
You're absolutely right. No one is there by choice, and we have to do all we can to help come back. I'll tell you what, we're gonna take a station break, but we're gonna come back. We're gonna pick it up again. I know that there's still an echo in there, but I think we were able to get the message out, and we're gonna continue to do this. So we're gonna take a station break. We're gonna come back, and we're gonna talk a lot more. It's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me. drawn to you. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can be taken for granted. I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Hey, I'm so drawn to you. I'm so drawn to you. Yeah, yeah.
Hello, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be honored to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, all this great information that this great guest is putting out is so fantastic, and I think we need to, take heed and understand that there are things that we can do out there. I mean, Paul made a statement a second ago about a lot of the seniors being on the street, and no one desires to be on the street, and it's a problem that we all have to address. And also about the other cities, Paul had mentioned that this is increasingly getting worse, and not just San Diego, but in other California cities and probably cities around the United States.
Definitely, most across the country, even outside the country. So this is a very important topic, and we're just excited to have Paul Downey, CEO of Serving Seniors, back on the show to address this issue. Audience, if you want to be part of the conversation, just go in and type in your comments, and we will answer your questions. Paul, so affordable housing does take time. What other measures can we take to address the homeless problem now? And can you tell us about safe parking lots or any safe camping spaces practical?
Yes, I mean, I think that I'll start with the latter part first. That I think safe parking lots are an important factor in as we look at a continuum of services. So it isn't just there isn't just one solution. So I think that the parking lots work well. It is better than having somebody actually sleep on the street. I think camping The city here is doing that. I think it's, again, better than the street. It's not optimal. We need more shelter beds. But I think what's really important is to focus on prevention. And that's something that we haven't talked much about. I say we collectively as folks working with folks experiencing homelessness, and that's to stop it from occurring in the first place. And so we have been major advocates for shallow rental subsidies, which is a small amount of money, $300 to $500, where that is given to the person's landlord to help defray the cost of their rent, so that it keeps them from falling over the edge and becoming homeless. We see a lot of folks that mention that they make about $1,200 a month. And even the single room occupancy hotels, which are essentially old hotels, 100 square foot room, bathroom down the hall, are going for $900. So you can do the arithmetic, $300 a month for everything else, which puts them constantly on the precipice of homelessness. So if you add $300 to $500 to that, that's just enough to keep them stable and to keep them from becoming homeless. And if you look at the numbers, I mean, we'll set aside the human aspect for just a second, which is really important. It costs about $35,000 to $50,000, depending on who you ask, is the cost of somebody who is on the street. That encompasses police, fire, paramedic, emergency room, hospitalization, long-term care, the criminal justice system, all of those things. For somebody on the street, that's the cost. So you can spend that and have the human trauma that goes with it, or you can simply invest in preventing it. So maybe $5,000 or $6,000 a year prevents it. And the corollary to that is what's called diversion. And we see a lot of folks that get a month or two behind in rent, and they have no ability to catch up because their income is so tight. So if you invest a month or two, write a check, pay a month or two of back rent to keep them housed, you have prevented that person from falling through the street. It's much better for them, obviously, and it's much better to not incur the huge expense of having somebody on the street.
Now, Paul, these preventative programs, it sounds great. It sounds wonderful. Is this a short-term solution to a long-term problem with senior homelessness? And does serving seniors, regarding these prevention programs, do they get donations and grants in order to implement these programs?
Yes, we get donations to do that. We also have been working with our city and county and have convinced them to make investments in this, and they're seeing the benefits as well of being able to do that. I see it as a short-term, probably short to medium-term solution, which is let's prevent it from occurring, buy ourselves some time so that we can try to find long-term housing solutions. I mean, that's what we really need. I mean, homelessness is a housing problem. People too often think, well, it's a mental health problem, it's an addiction problem, it's a laziness problem. People just don't want to work. They're happy, sleeping on the sidewalk, but it's a housing problem. I mean, in a place like San Diego, the average rent for a studio apartment is $2,000 a month. A one bedroom is about $2,400, and a two bedroom is about $3,200. So that, when you talk about $3,200 two bedroom, that impacts working families. Two wage earners trying to, maybe with a couple of kids, that's a huge number on a monthly basis. But for a senior who's making $1,200 and they're trying to compete for units that cost $2,000, I mean, the arithmetic just doesn't work. So for that medium to long term, we need to increase the availability of affordable housing, which means density on transit. I mean, that's really the key is a lot of folks in this income level can't afford a car, so they're dependent on the bus or trolley or subway or whatever system that may exist. And so building high density on transit with walkable to shopping makes the most sense. It's the most economical to build, but it also addresses the problem. Again, in a place like San Diego, it's estimated that there's between 9 to 10,000 individuals sleeping on our streets every single night. And that's, again, relatively small to compare to LA, which is like 100,000 or more on the streets, and in other places where you're lucky to huge numbers. So we really need to make that investment in that investment in really trying to come up with that longer term solutions. But in the meantime, prevention is key. And you look at even things like Section 8 vouchers, which are really important in this discussion. A Section 8 voucher means the person would pay 1/3 of his or her income in rent, and the rest of it is covered by the government. So landlord gets market rent, the senior pays 1/3 of their income. The problem is that to get a voucher in San Diego is about 10 years, 10, 11 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
the problem is that even if you get you still can't find a place to use it because the competition is so great for available units that a landlord makes the decision: do I want to deal with the government, or do I want to just take somebody who has great credit and is going to do auto pay every month? And so that's the dilemma that folks are seeing out there.
Well, thank you, Paul. And we're going to have to take a commercial break right now. We'll be back, audience, with Paul Downey, the CEO of Serving Seniors. If you have a question for Paul, and we do have a question from Gail Falconer, which we'll address later after this break. Thank you.
Fight again. And if you want my opinion, I'll let it take me away. Only relief is the four on the floor and the crowd that goes, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
There is much truth in a journey that ain't over yet, as all of us journey through life's precious gift of time, just like James Cooley has. Hi, I'm Noah Dingley, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. There's a new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet. You can join James as he shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. This is a must listen for anyone who thinks they're stuck in life or needs to understand their current situation is not their final destination. Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet is the unfiltered truth to provide hope for the future by challenging you to refuse to become a victim of life's circumstances. It dares you to be an overcomer because a bigger, better, and more impactful life awaits you. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Hello there. Welcome back to It's Your Life with Dr. James Cooley. I think Dr. James has some audio issues right now, but welcome back to the show. And our guest is Paul Downey, CEO of Serving Seniors. And audience, please, if you have any questions or comments about ageism and senior homelessness, please just send in your comments and questions. We'll be happy to address it. Paul, before we start with more questions, we do have a comment and a question from Gail Falkendahl. She wants to know, why do people seem to be in denial about people who are homeless? And I know you addressed, comments that they're addicts or mentally ill, and that's not the case. But I guess I'm asking the denial question about homelessness in general.
Well, I think because if they're out on the streets, I mean, the people that attract their attention are the people who are severely mentally ill. So that person who is talking to themselves and, who may appear disoriented, that's what attracts your attention. But I've talked with many people who are experiencing homelessness, and they are unseen by most people. People look the other direction. I mean, it's actually similar to what happens to a lot of older adults as well. People tend to just ignore them. So what happens is, I think that we'll call average person experiencing homelessness, who does not have a mental illness, is not addicted, but is there because of bad luck, economic conditions. People don't tend to notice, because they don't. As they're walking down the street, they're ignoring. But that person who's standing in the middle of the sidewalk having an animated conversation, that's who gets the attention. And people assume that everybody is like that, or they see the person who clearly is maybe using drugs, and that's who they pay attention to. But particularly for older adults, that is not the case. It is they are economically homeless. I mean, by and large, we did a comprehensive needs assessment a couple of years ago, where we did in-depth interviews with 400 seniors who had experienced homelessness, and more than 80% came back and said the root cause was an economic issue that caused them to end up on the street. And many of them for the first time in their 60s and 70s. So this is not a lifelong pattern, but something bad happened, and they did not have the ability to recover, and ended up homeless.
Yeah, so it's really heartbreaking to hear about, people, they live, great lives, and all of a sudden it's in a situation where economically they cannot afford to live at the home or the place where they choose. But Paul, what are the ways that we can help older adults stay employed and provide jobs with healthcare benefits that can stop the cycle of homelessness?
Well, we need to focus our job training programs in a way that helps that an older adult who maybe is looking for a 15, 20-hour a week job. They're not looking to go back for a career, but maybe need some help, because there are some some technical challenges that some folks have, where they're not computer literate. They do not have a smartphone, or they can't afford a smartphone. So these days, you want to apply for a job at McDonald's, you do it online. I have many folks say, hey, the last time I looked for a job, I bought a newspaper and pulled out the want ads, circled them, and I went in person and applied. Well, that isn't the way we do things in 2023. So we need to focus our job training programs for folks, again, looking for the part-time work, maybe in their 60s or even 70s, and help them get through some of maybe the technical issues about, how do I upload my resume to the employer, and maybe help beef up some of their technical skills or their computer skills, so that they can survive in the workforce. And then for those folks that are maybe in their late 50s or early 60s, who are looking to go back to a career, making sure they have access to the resources, and helping them prepare for the inevitable ageism that they will face when they go in to talk to that hiring manager, and how to demonstrate that they are just as competent or more so perhaps than their younger counterparts.
Yes. So, Paul, tell us about the September 30th annual Sunshine Gala event that just happened.
Well, it's our biggest fundraiser, and you saw John. So John was, as we mentioned, was featured. We showed his video, and he played the piano. But it really was to do a couple things. It was to educate folks about what we do, and second, it was to give them an opportunity to make some contributions. And I'm pleased to say we had a record amount of over $600,000 raised that will go directly to help folks like John and others who are struggling to survive. And third, just to have some fun. So it was a yacht rock theme. So we told everybody wear your best yachting attire, and if not, your best, your loudest Hawaiian shirt would suffice. And so people, we danced the night away with a great yacht rock band. So it was a combination of seriousness, but some fun as well. And we had a chance to, almost 400 people attended, and many of them for learning about us for the first time. And that's really important because we really do depend on the public generosity to allow us to provide all these programs and services.
We're down to the last 2 minutes of the show, but I have a two-part question for you. So, what would you like to tell our viewers and listeners what they can do to fight the issue of ageism? And what would you like the legacy of serving seniors to be?
Okay. Well, I would say that to fight ageism is to call it out, because it really falls into the same category that if somebody made a racist joke or a sexist joke, you would say something, or most people would say something, say that's not appropriate. So if somebody makes an old person joke or comment, or is derisive about somebody because they are using a cane or a walker, is to educate them and say, hey, that's not okay to do that, and to just be cognizant, because people who would be horrified to have somebody think they made a racist or sexist comment are happy to laugh at an old person's joke, and so speak up. And I would say that the best legacy for serving seniors is if we could get have no seniors living on the street, making sure that people, regardless of their income, are able to live their best lives, and to enjoy being part of the community, to be able to volunteer, to be able to see their friends, and to thrive and to enjoy their life. And they've worked hard and they deserve that opportunity. And if we can contribute in a small way, we'll have done our job.
Thank you so much, Paul, for coming on It's Your Life with Dr. James Cooley, serving seniors. Great organization, donations, volunteer work. They're looking for help and assistance and volunteers in this amazing organization. Thank you for joining us on It's Your Life with Dr. James Cooley. Thank you, audience. Thank you, listeners. Hope to see you soon.